Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and we're going back to this drawing because someone requested me to do this drawing, and I forgot to give him the call out who it was that requested this drawing, and it's not particularly this drawing, but he requested me to do something like an hybrid, and his name is BO3 Black Ops. So yeah, I forgot to give him the call out in the tutorial version of this drawing, and also Paleo Artist or Paleo Draw it is, came up with a great name, and he named it the Angotaurus. I really like this. I like that name because it really it sounds really cool and stuff, and it also has a few of the elements of the other dinosaurs in its name. So yeah. Also, well, yeah. Let's just get into the video right now. So, what we're gonna do today is Paleo Draw also requested me to do a video about how to put details into your drawing, how to put different textures and stuff and muscles into your drawing. And to do that, we need to pay a little bit attention to the shadow. So where is your light source coming from? For example, my light source is in almost all of my drawings coming from over here. So it comes from over here, goes that way. And what that means is that on every single piece of his body, it has like a curve in it. I mean, well, it is three-dimensional. So if it has a curve in it, then on this side of the object, there's supposed to be shadow. So we're gonna use this drawing, and we're gonna use this drawing to get some detail in it. But first, I need to show you guys how you can look at it the best way. So, for example, if you have a marker or any kind of round object, I'm not sure if you can really see it very well on camera, but what you see when you look at it is that, for example, if this is like a marker, alright, so if this is a marker and the sun is coming from this side, then that means there's going to be shadow over here. And if you, for example, if you give it a lot of shadow, the object looks really round. I'm just roughly going over it. I'm not paying attention to I'm just going very quickly, so it will be messy. So on this side you have a lot of shadow. Something like this, and you leave this like it is. But when I want to draw something that isn't completely round, for example, a different kind of marker, a wider kind of marker that isn't completely round, and the sun is still coming from over here, what you do is you make it very dark over here with a lot of curves, and you leave this part very light also. And then you can always put in a little bit of texturing, but that part stays very light, as you can see. So now let's get this into a leg shaped object. So if this is like the upper leg of a dinosaur without any muscle, and the sun is coming from this side, then you can just add the same kind of texture to it as over here, because you don't want it to be completely round. You just want a little bit of a curve in it. And once you come further down, your lines are going to get shorter. So this gives it a little bit of a 3D look. And you can just do something like this. But what I also like to do is make this side, do a little bit of shadow on this side as well. Just a little bit, and then make those lines coming from over there. And then go back over here and make this a lot darker. Something like that. But now, when you want to draw muscles into it, you need to know which lines to follow. So, well, for example, if like this is a marker over here, but what happens when you put another marker next to it? Something like this. What happens is that the shadow is also a little bit very dark over here, and it's also imprinting on the marker behind it. Or for example, when the sun is a little bit more behind it, shadow goes this way. So that's how you can kind of get that feeling of depth and shadow into your drawing. So now we're gonna draw the same as we did here. Your dinosaur kind of leg. And now we're gonna draw the muscle lines into them. And remember that your sun is coming, or your source of light is coming from over here. So we want to draw something like this, and we're just going to draw one muscle line that goes like this, and another one that disappears behind over here. So right now you will have shadow over here, but make sure that you don't touch the other muscle line. And over here should be the knee. And now do the same thing as you did over here, but now on this side. And what you could do, you could draw another muscle over here, and then just do something like this, a little bit of shadow. So and you do want this to be, when you're drawing the muscles in, you don't want to press down too hard, because otherwise you get, well, you need to fade it a little bit into the drawing, so you don't really, it doesn't look so artificial. So this should be about okay. But for example, if you press down too hard with your pencil on the muscle lines, you get something like this. And that's just not what you want. you can have the same effect over here. And the reason you don't want those dark lines is because when you're drawing your dinosaur, you want everything to be kind of in the same tone variation. For example, you want this to be the darkest tone, and that means that you won't have any tones that go darker than it. So if you're drawing your dinosaur or any kind of other drawing, this is, for example, his belly, and this is where his rib cage should go, something like this. Then over here you have a lot of shadow, but because you made these lines so dark, you also have to make this line very dark, and you also have to make this line very dark, because you don't want this to be the darkest tone in your drawing, and that will make for an unrealistic look. So alright, now we have the basics of this pretty much mastered. We can move on to the next kind of scenario, next kind of texturing. So we have the big leg again, with a knee over here, and whatever you draw that's attached to it. What you can do is make these lines a lot darker, so it doesn't get as messy. And then what you want to do is get the muscle lines in very light. And now we're going to use the same kind of technique that I like to use on a lot of my drawings. So first we're going to start very light with those kind of shadow lines that we talked about over here, but make sure they are a certain distance apart from each other. And then do the same thing over here. And then do the same thing over here as well. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is put in kind of shapes like this. And then just very tiny. And how you can go dark with those shapes is just put a lot of them very close together. That makes a dark effect. But when you want to go light, I'm sorry, I'm smearing everything. When you want to go light, you want to, the light tones, you want to put them a little bit farther apart. This gives a little bit of a light tone. Alright, so over here you want them to be very, very dark. And then just go lighter and lighter once you get a little bit more into the middle. So this gives it like a nice skin texture while you're trying to get the detail in it. And if you don't like it because you think it needs to be darker at some points, just keep going over it with those kind of lines. And you can use very large lines, very big ones of those scales, but you can also just keep them very small. I like to keep them very small because it will give a greater effect of detail into the drawing. And just go over it until you are kind of happy with what you have. So as you can see right here, what I did wrong is I made this line way too dark. So to counter that, I have to make the rest of the drawing a lot darker as well. So if you are really working on a drawing and the only thing you still need to put in is his leg, be sure to not make these lines too dark, because otherwise you will have to go over everything, every single thing in your drawing again, and it just takes a lot of time. It doesn't necessarily look bad when you go a little bit darker, but it just takes a lot more time. And for me, for example, when I'm making videos, I don't have all the time of the world, so I tend to keep them a little bit short. I try to keep them a little bit short at least. So something like this. Alright, so now let's move on to an actual drawing, and let's go to the Carnotaurus, because this one is not, I didn't went over it with a pen. So for example, when you have a Carnotaurus, almost every kind of dinosaur, you can get these lines into the drawing. These are just basic lines to you can just always follow, but it starts over here, and you can kind of make an impression of his rib case over here, and this should be a really dark line, because this is there's a lot of shadow underneath this, because the sun is over here and this is a little bit round, and we also want to make an indication for where his back muscle will be, and then we could put in some ribs. And when you put in ribs, what you could do is not make them too dark immediately, but just put in a little bit shadow between them, and make the shadow on the bottom a little bit more than on the top. But make sure that when you're doing this, leave a strip of light between them, in between them, yeah. And the reason why we're doing this darker at the bottom is because this is a round object, and there is going to be a little bit more shadow over here. So what I start with is doing these lines, and some places they are longer than other places, but it's just to get the kind of the shadow into place already. And this is supposed to be one of the darkest places on my dinosaur, and also over here, so I'm going to go over those lines a little. And then what you could do is also create a line over here. You can do this on every single dinosaur as well. And with the Carnotaurus you have like these plates on his back, but you don't have to completely go over every single part with those lines. Just put in a few lines and it will be okay, because we're going to put a little bit of detail between it, in between those. Alright, so this is also very dark, and this is just the basic way how I draw almost every dinosaur. And then just put those kind of scales everywhere. And over here, what I like to do is put in a lot of wrinkles. And also over here, what I usually do is also draw a line which goes all the way until the end of his tail. And then this part is pretty much already done right now. So you don't have to put in a lot of these skills to finish your drawing. I mean, you can go dark if you want, but you don't really have to. You don't have to make your drawing so dark that it takes you like 3 or 4 hours to do it. So a few lines for some arteries and stuff, and put a little bit of shadow beneath it. And then over here also get these kind of curved lines into it, and make them a little lighter over here, this area. And then just put some skills in between everything. And you can do the same kind of muscle kind of detail on his arm. You just draw one line over here, one line over there. So over here I want to pay attention to how dark the rest of my drawing is. I don't want to go too dark immediately. So I'm really drawing it in very roughly and doing the same over here. I don't want to go too dark. And then just draw in the rest of the lines. So yeah, we're already quite far with this drawing. So I'm just going to get a little bit faster with everything, because I don't want this video to automatically end, because I don't have enough time left. So you leave a few parts white, and you can just put in a little bit extra detail into those spots. And over here, what I like to do is just draw very dark lines. This part you can make it very dark. It looks really good on the Jurassic Park kind of dinosaurs. But don't go over it anymore with anything darker, because otherwise you will lose that kind of scale texturing. Alright, so over here you can just put in those curved lines, make sure that the bottom part is the darkest, and then just connect it with everything else. And do the same over here. And put a little bit more shadow underneath this, so it really looks like it is a 3D object. and also over here. And we could make this leg a little bit darker over there so you can see it a little better. And just do the same thing over here with those lines. I'm just going really fast right now because I believe I explained every important aspect of how to do texturing on your dinosaurs and stuff. And you can take your time to do this. I mean, I'm just really used to doing this a lot, so that's why I can do it a little quicker, but my quality is going down also when I do it a little quicker. But yeah, you can just take your time and try to figure out how to do it the best way, what your kind of art style allows you to do. So I'm just going to darken in those little fingers a lot, because otherwise you won't be able to see them. Normally I wouldn't do that because it doesn't really look as good, but you can just do the same thing as what you did on this foot. But his hand is just right over here, so it doesn't really appeal too much if I just do it the normal way. So now let's go into his head, and what I do on the head mostly is draw some wrinkles around the eye, some very dark wrinkles, and then go over this part a little bit around the eye as well, and draw in a little bit of shadow around the eye, and also make this a little darker, just a tiny bit. And put some scales in it as well. So yeah, the Carnotaurus is supposed to have like these kind of scales on it. I mean, not scales, but spikes on his back and stuff. But that's not what this video is about. So on the mouth you can put some lines going this way, so it will give it kind of an angry look to the dinosaur. A muscle over here with the same kind of aspect that we talked about. And darkening this part a little bit for the lower jaw. And maybe put an ear right there. Don't darken in those holes too much. And for spikes like this, just do something like this. A couple of lines going up, and then a little bit of detail on it. So yeah, that's basically how I draw my detail. And I'm really sorry that I kind of messed up the drawing a little bit by going over it with my hand and smearing everything. But yeah, I hope you you learned something from it. I hope you enjoyed the video. So yeah, if you like the video, leave a like, subscribe and comment below what you think about the video. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.